Do we start?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna show you how to turn this into
Why? What's gonna go there?
a door and 2 windows.
Oh, why?
Because we don't like this thing anymore. This is old.
Is it old like you?
Yeah, old, like my paint. So what have we done up to this point? So we've done a lot of planning. So what we have determined is how do we want this to lay out on the outside. This is what, I can basically put together a little drawing. We also have some other layouts, which I'm not going to get into, but this is basically how the door and windows are going to lie out inside of the wall. Because when you're doing your layout of how you want everything to look at the end, either the inside or the outside is going to determine how you want to set everything up. But in your case, it might be on the inside. In my case, and in most cases, you want it to be lined up perfectly on the outside because of weather, water seal, air seal, and things like that. And the inside, you can just basically extend things with just wood. All right, the outside's a little more finicky. So if I go with the outside, that will basically determine my layout. Now we know the layout, now we can actually go buy all the materials. So what have we bought up to this point? What have we done? So we got our 2x4s, we got our framing. For my house, we need 1-inch foam. In our garage, we have the 2 windows and we have our door. We got our insulation. We got our window and door sealing tape. This stuff's awesome. We got our white caulk. We got our window and door foam.
Can you just use any foam?
No, you gotta use that. Window and door. Do not use the red can. What was that?
A chicken.
A chicken.
I think it was a chicken.
Might have been a mountain lion. We have mountain lions here. What we did before is I went through and I grabbed all the tools that I would need for this job. Friday night, I staged everything. So I made sure I had all my materials at the house. I actually started pulling off the siding, pulling off framing, getting it to the point where all we need to do is remove a few screws and we pull this door out. So now we're gonna get to the point where we're actually gonna pull this door out. It's gonna go really quick. We got the door out, and what we're doing is we're removing anything that gets in our way of the framing. We want to get back to framing. Now this doesn't need a header because this had a 3-panel door in there. So we don't need to worry about any structural integrity here because there's already a header holding up this entire roof here. When they built the house, they put a header in. So all we're doing when we're building this back is we're just building like almost an interior wall. Think of it that way. I mean, it's an exterior wall. When we did the demo, we made sure that nothing was protruding. So we went back to wood, right? We went back all the way to wood. We removed any staples, anything sticking out. We actually had to cut our carpet back, all right, because we're gonna have to build some framing back. Now we're gonna have a door and we're gonna have 2 windows, and you have to decide how you're gonna center this. We could center it, right? We could center it in the room, or we could center it based off the peak outside. So we decided that we want to center it off the peak on the outside. So what I did was I ran a laser, right? And the nice thing actually, when they built the house, there was a center point already here. So when we were planning this out, when I was running through all the paces or doing all the reps this week, thinking about how this was going to work, I wrote down all my rough openings. So everything's going to be based off of the door first. So we have to figure out where the door is going to be laid out first. So the door height is 82 inches, right, high. That's our rough opening height. Now, in our case, we're at 82 inches already, so we don't need to worry about padding this down or anything like that. We also don't need to worry about, again, a header, because this already has a header. It was built in with a header. Now we need to worry about our rough opening width. So we're at 38 1/4. So what we did was we found our center point. We measured over 19 1/4. Boom. 19 1/4. Boom. We also have a line on the inside where all of our inside framing is going to go, right? And now we're basically at the point where we're going to start rebuilding this wall. Frame in the door first, and then because of our layout, then we'll frame out the windows, because the windows are going to be based off of the door. Where's my tape measure? Of course, I already lost it.
Right there.
All right, so we're going to start with our bottom plates. So we cut 2 bottom plates, 1 on each side. All right, we just double checking that our rough opening is 38 1/4. Now it would have been nice to actually just run 1 bottom sill here and then cut this out later, but I don't have a 10-footer. This is like almost a 10-foot opening. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, there's actually a line in here from when the house was built, which is really nice. So we're actually going to use that as a guide. And first thing I'm going to do is line this up with the bottom sill that's already there, or bottom plate, sorry. And we're going to screw this in here. Now we're going to use this line here to place these, to set these. But then we're also going to grab a level and we're going to hold it on just to make sure, or a long straight edge. It doesn't even have to be a level because we're not leveling it. We're just trying to make sure that these 2 bottom plates are in the same exact plane. All right, so since everything is based off of the door layout, we're gonna add these studs here, these double studs, okay? So pretty simple, you just measure up to your top plate. I get 80 1/2. We got our 2 studs in. This is where the door will attach. Just tie these into the bottom because we know the bottom is set. Then we'll plumb them up and we'll screw them into the top, all right? So we have the framing done. Like we said before, our door is gonna be on the plane of the foam. So that's why we have these 2 2x4s kind of scabbed with the 1-inch foam, right? We cleared out a little area up there as well for the brick molding. We added 2 1/2-inch pieces of plywood here. This is our sill plate, right? So this is where the door is gonna sit. This has to be perfectly level, okay? You cannot level this after the fact because this is where the sill is gonna be sitting. If it's out, you can't add shims or anything like that because eventually it'll break because people are stepping on it, okay? So this has to be perfect. When we put these 2 pieces of 1/2-inch plywood, we made sure that it was perfectly flat, the interior subfloor. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use Protecto wrap. I mean, we're underneath a cover here, so it's a little different. Like usually you would run your Protecto wrap like up like this, right? Your ice and water shield, because you got water splashing and things like that. But here we're not gonna have any water. But we're gonna still put this down, at least on the bottom, to protect our sill. Now we're getting ready to install the doors. We got a tube of window and door caulk, okay? So we add a bead around the entire brick molding here. All right, so now that we have the door here, we're gonna add our caulk to the bottom. Let's push it in. All right, so now we got the door in the opening. All right, we're gonna use these airbags. I really recommend these airbags. They make everything a lot easier. So we open the door up a little bit, and what we're doing here is we're adding an airbag under here. We're pumping it up here. We're also adding an airbag here because since the door frame is not in the opening, when we open this, it's all gonna wanna fall this way, right? So what we wanna do is kind of prop it up because we want to set the hinge side first. All right. One of the first things we did is we centered the sill, the bottom sill, in the rough opening. So we centered it between down here and over here, okay? Once it was centered, we're gonna put the shim in here. Now what we wanna do is we wanna put a shim up here, right? Now to do that, using our airbag, we're gonna shim up we're gonna plumb up using the hinges. If you look, this still needs to come up a little bit, or come over a little bit, so that's okay. We're gonna come over here. We're just gonna give it a little push with the airbag. Come back over, get again. I think it come over just a little bit more. And we're looking really good there. So now it's a matter of placing my shims and running my screws in all of the areas where you wanna put a screw. So you can see there are spots in this one, at least, where you're supposed to put screws. And this is where we want to shim. So this is where we're gonna add our shims strategically. All right, so we got our shims up there nice and tight, and we're gonna run our first screw in. It's gonna sort of set. After we got that in, we wanna constantly check. We're constantly check that we're plumb, and we are plumb, we're right on. So now we're just gonna keep working our way down. Also make sure that we're not bowing the frame. So, you don't want to run this one super tight and then bow the frame and it looks like something like that, okay? So every one we put in, we check for plumb. Just doing it, thanks for check if there was. One way to get yourself here, we kind of rough set this window over here, all right? Now, since this is going to be one complete unit, we really want to make sure that everything is on the same level, meaning the 2 windows are on the same level because, for trim work and everything, when it looks at the end, we want this to look nice, all right? We have that sort of temporarily in there. Now we're gonna show you how we frame this out. So our window opening is 24 inches wide. It's 54 inches high. That's our rough opening. Basically measured at the bottom, 24 inches. We're gonna tack this stud in. Now we need to put our cross piece in. This is gonna be 54 inches down because it's our rough opening. All right, that's our sill. Now we can start putting our window together. We do have some electrical and some other audio visual stuff that we're not gonna get into in this video, but we do have some outlets that we're gonna be installing. All right, now we're gonna get ready to place the window in. Throw some shims down.
That's the other way.
All right, so now we are placing the windows. And like I think I said before, these windows have to be on the same height, right? Because this is all gonna be one unit. There's gonna be one header across the top. And if anything is off, you'll notice it. So what we're doing is we're using a laser right now, and you can see that it's basically kissing the bottom of this flange here, and it's kissing the bottom of the flange here, the same amount, okay? That tells us that this bottom corner on here and here is on the same plane. So what we're doing right now is we are gonna attach on both sides. We're attaching just the left side on this one and the right side on this one, the inside ones, okay? And we're setting the depth using a little block that we made up, but this block is the depth that we need these windows to be at because we want this flange and this brick molding to be on the same plane, all right? So we made this, and you can see this is all set at the same level, right? And all we did was we ran a screw in here. All right, then we came up here, we held this up here. Wanted to make sure that this and this was on the same plane. Once it was, we ran a screw in here. Now the reason why we want these all to be on the same plane is for our finishing work. You kind of always want to think about how's this going to look when it's done. So when this is done, this is what it's going to look like, right? So we're going to run a piece right in there. We'll caulk this seam, and it'll look really nice. We'll run a header across the top. We know this is placed where we want it, right? We did our spacing with our blocking. Now this is sort of just like kind of in the air, free, floating. So where is this gonna be? Because there's no wall here or anything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our 1-inch foam. We made this little block, of course, and we're gonna just basically line up that flange, again, just like we did on the other side with this. Screw it in, run our screw here, do the same thing on the top. So we added our blocking in underneath our windows, okay? We added some outlets. We didn't really cover that in the video. In a later video, we're actually gonna cover this. This is an HDMI cable. We're gonna actually have a TV here we'll install later. So we actually had to push that into the wall. We'll cover that in a later video. Now what we're gonna do is we need to extend this 1-inch foam. So we have this foam here. We're gonna basically have to fill this all in on both sides. Then we have to side it, and then we'll get on the inside and we'll start on the finishing in there. All right, so that's where we're gonna end this specific video, but we're not ending all the videos. We actually have a bunch of other videos that we made on this specific project. Already made a video on the trim, so if you wanna see that, I'll put a link to it down below. This video will be out before the trim video. Inside here, basically the gist of everything was just some drywall. We had to insulate these cavities, of course, because this is an exterior wall, and we had to do some drywall work as well, some spackle. So this patch, even though the seam is around here, this patch was pretty wide. It was about here, right? We patched the whole thing. Again, made a video on the trim, so it won't get into that, all right? But if you want to see that, I'll put a link to that down below. Now, if we go outside, we're still not done out here. Actually, we're gonna have three. We're out here. We're gonna have 3 videos. So the next video we're gonna have is we are gonna have a video on how to case this out. This is exterior, so it's a little different, but it's gonna have the same trim package as inside. We're also gonna do a video on depths with some nice railings, all right? And there's already a video that's in the works on how to add this exterior TV, which is kind of part of this project. All right, so if you put all those 4 videos together, it'll put this whole project together in a series of videos. I'll have them all linked in the description down below. And I'm no longer out, but I am out in the video. I'm Mike, Found With UI TV. Please like, please subscribe, please leave me a comment down below. And I am triple pane, slider glass door, converted to a single door with a window here and a window here, with a door handle here, with a right hand here.